Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have a brand new set of great stories for you to enjoy, so sit comfortably, and here we go. Don't try to mess with what I do and expect to get away with it. I used to work at a busy local pizza restaurant as a pizza cutter for $10 per hour cash in hand. So my job involved cutting pizzas and sorting out the orders. Not very hard unless there's 20 coming out of the oven in a minute. Anyhow, I won't lie, I would make a couple of mistakes here and then with orders. As you would expect, you would get a stern talking to by the boss after each one. However, after a while, the mistakes started becoming more and more frequent to the stage where I was getting screamed at. I was now triple checking orders because I was sure I had them right. One night, I was up to 8 mistaken orders. Then I turn around and catch the mother effer mixing up my orders that I'd organized, then walking off. I was effing furious. I was copping all this crap because this sea bag was making mistakes. So after that night, I effing handed it to him. I told him what I thought about him and his crappy restaurant. There were no safety or health standards enforced with the meals or anywhere in the kitchen, TBH. So here's what I do. Turns out a lot of my friends ordered from the store, so of course I tell them how the food is prepared and how there's no respect for the employees. By word of mouth, one of the people still working there tells me their nights gradually began getting quieter. Then I thought to myself, how else can I F over this sea bag? Then I remembered that he used to make around $3,500 to $4,500 after wages every night. So I did some math and established if he'd been cutting corners by keeping people off the books, then he owed a crap load of tax and super to everyone that worked there. So I made a phone call to the tax office, and it turns out he owed them upwards of 2 million Australian dollars, provided he'd been paying cash in hand for the past 8 years the business had been running. I'll just say there is no more local pizza shop. I believe the tax evasion also landed him some jail time, so serve the sea right. And our next story. Not letting me pick my own airline to fly? Enjoy paying for my business class seat on the contracted airline? So as a federal employee, when we fly, we have to book our plane tickets with the locally contracted airline. However, our union agreement and other federal travel regulations and guidelines state an employee can fly any airline of their choice as long as the price is equal to or cheaper than the contracted airline. My first 2 trips to the Midwest, I flew with Airline Z because I've been a frequent flyer with them for 15 plus years. They offer plenty of legroom, their planes are newer and bigger, and seats are wide enough to be comfortable. The first 2 trips, their price was cheaper than the contracted airline. I made my orders, booked my tickets with Airline Z, and everything was approved. Easy done. Then it wasn't. July 2017. It was going to be my 3rd trip to the Midwest. I did my orders, booked my flight with Airline Z. The price was slightly cheaper than the contracted airline price, so I figured, who doesn't want to save money? Sent everything for approval. Well, the new approving manager, AM, denied my orders. I called her and asked why were my orders denied. She says, you didn't book your ticket with the contracted airline. I explained that I've flown 2 other times with Airline Z. The price had always been cheaper than the contracted airline, and per the union agreement, my orders shouldn't have been denied. She goes on to say, well, I wouldn't have approved them then, and I'm not approving them now. Redo your orders. Okay, so I redid my orders with the contracted airline. Again, the price was slightly higher than Airline Z, but I do what I'm told. When I arrive at the gate, I notice the plane that the contracted airline was using was smaller than Airline Z. I was hoping it was as cramped as it looked, but sure enough, when I got in, I immediately felt cramped. At 6'1", my head was a few inches from hitting the roof of the plane, and being slightly bulky, the seat I sat in was narrow and extremely uncomfortable. If I raised the armrest, my thighs spilled over to the other passenger's comfort zone. Thank God the seat beside me was empty for this trip. My knees were literally hitting the seat of the passenger in front of me. I somehow managed to grab my phone out of my pocket and take a picture of my legs and knees and showed how cramped and uncomfortable I was. It was the longest 3-hour flight ever. As for the return flight, it was the same circumstance as the departure flight, except I had someone next to me who was also slightly bulky. I pulled out my phone again and painfully took another picture. I discreetly added the passenger size next to me to add to my discomfort flight. October 2017 comes around and I'm heading to training again, and once again I had to book with the contracted airline. And the same thing happens. Cramped seats, hurting knees, bulky passenger next to me, and this time the passenger in front of me leaned back on her seat mid-flight. With my phone at the ready, I took another picture of my horrible circumstance. My caption would have been, "This is how a sardine feels." On the return home, I paid for the emergency row out of pocket. Booking the emergency exit row was an extra cost that wasn't allowed on government credit cards. It's after Thanksgiving 2017, and I get advised I'm going back to the Midwest for more training. This time I'm ready. I'd done a little research on the federal travel regs and saw that business class was an option for air travel if the reason to book business class was for safety and health reasons. Bingo! I created my orders, and this time I booked business class with the contracted airline and included my health as an exceptional reason. The total price was almost 3 times the normal expense for this type of trip. I submitted my orders for approval, and not even a minute passes when AM calls me. I answered the phone. I didn't even get a chance to say hello. AM: "Why the hell are you booking business class?" Me: "Because on the contracted airline, I don't fit in the normal seats." AM: "That's not a good enough reason. You need to change the class now, or I'm not approving these at all." Me: "No, it's a health issue. I need business class to sit comfortable. My legs and thighs cramp up and my knees hurt from banging the seat in front of me. I'm not approving that. I'm coming over there and we're going to meet with your manager right now." Click. I was ready for this. I got my phone and walked to my manager's office. He's on the phone, so I quietly sit down and didn't say anything. He gets off the phone, then looks at and asks, "What's up?" I smile and shake my head when in comes AM. "Glad you're here. He wants to book business class for his training trip." Manager: "You know you can't do that. Why did you?" Me, pulling out my phone: "Remember my trip in July? Well, here's my first experience with the contracted airline heading to training." I give my manager my phone, and he raises his eyebrows in disbelief. AM didn't even look at the photo. "That's not the government's problem." Me: "Okay." Manager hands me back my phone. Well, here's the picture from the return trip, and it was more uncomfortable than the outbound trip. I couldn't get settled the entire trip. My thighs and legs cramped a bit. I showed my manager my phone again, and he cringes. AM is still unfazed. "Your comfort is not our concern. We just need to get you there, and that's it." And finally, I say, as I get my phone back and show them the October trip, "This happened on my last trip, which left my right thigh in pain for a few days. My lower back ached while sitting in training, which made it uncomfortable to learn or study the material. Not to mention the sore knees I had from bumping into the seat in front of me. Again." I showed my manager the sardine picture, and he made the face like he'd just swallowed a lemon. Me: "I really do cramp up in those seats. I can't sit or stand up comfortably. I'm in the next passenger's personal space, and I can't really adjust my knees or legs at all during the flight. If I get hurt really bad where I can barely walk, I might have to miss a day or two in training class. Therefore, for health reasons, I need business class on the contracted airline." "Well, that ain't gonna happen because I'm not approving them. You need to change it back to coach. You've done coach before with the contracted airlines. You can do it again." My manager just looked at her for a minute. For him being a big guy himself, he knew my pain. Manager: "Well, I think you should approve his orders. But I understand if you don't want to. He's provided me with enough info here to get a health exception. I can't have him miss training due to an injury because of cramped seats. If I have to, I'll have him send his orders to your manager for approval. Of course, I'm also going to send him a quick email with those pictures to back up the health exception. Do you mind sending those pictures to my email?" Me: "Sure." And sent. "Thank you." He was quiet for a minute until he turned back to AM. "What would have been the alternative to flying the contracted airline?" "There is none. We have to fly the contract airline." I'm staying quiet because it's no longer my fight. "Are you positive on that?" my manager says. "Yes, 100%. "Well, then I guess we have to book him business class." And he turns to his computer and starts typing something. AM, though, doesn't want to admit defeat, especially to her own boss. "Wait," she says, with one arm stretched out, trying to get my manager to stop typing, which he does. "You know, he could fly coach with Airline Z. That's an alternative." AM is now trying to save face, but my manager isn't buying it. Are the tickets the same price as the contracted airline? I did a quick internet search on my phone, which, by the way, is not the way you research official travel prices. You must use the government search engine, and AM should have caught this. She does not. No, sir, I say. All prices are up really high right now. AM is PO'd knowing that she has lost completely. Manager. So before I finish my email and send it off to your manager, will you approve his orders? AM nods like a spoiled child, and she walks out of his office. I thank my manager and left to resend my orders to AM with business class for my November training. By the way, it wasn't much difference except for wider seats, more legroom, my knees didn't touch the seat in front of me, and free drinks. January 2018 comes around, and I get another training class, except this time I get approved to fly with Airline Z from AM. And our last story. You like my parking spot? Okay then, you can have it till spring. Years ago, I worked with a guy who grew up in Chicago during the 50s. He told the story of one particularly nasty winter when he and his father spent a long time clearing their driveway, only to come home and find a neighbor's car parked in it. His father was enraged, but rather than heading off to thrash the owner, he got a water hose and sprinkler out of storage and hooked them up. He set the sprinkler so it would cover the car pretty evenly and turned it on and walked away. The car was soon shaped like an iceberg. The owner must have taken the hint because they never caught him trying to get into it, but occasionally ice would be chipped away around the door. It took multiple attempts before they finally managed it, though, especially since his dad sloshed another bucket of water over it now and then. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.